What are your company's most valuable assets? We might first think about people and property, but there could be something important right now that you're not protecting, something that could hurt you in the future. Joining me is attorney John Mashni from Foster Swift Law Firm. Hi, John.
Hey, Julie, how are you doing?
We have to know, John, what is the most valuable asset that could be sitting around right now unprotected?
Yeah, I think one of the things we always talk about, at least I talk about with clients, is thinking about the most valuable thing in your business, most asset. What's the most valuable asset? What is it? And a lot of times they might think of equipment, they might think of a building, they might think of real estate, but very often they don't think of which the thing that could be potentially the most valuable asset that they have in their business, and that's their intellectual property. And many times, if you think of the biggest companies you can think of that have 1 million employees or more, that have locations everywhere, if you look at their balance sheet or you look at some of their financial statements, literally the most valuable thing in their entire business is their intellectual property. Specifically, it could be a trademark registration, right? The goodwill in the marketplace, the name, the logo, things like that. And all that is really, if you think about it, it's intangible. So it could be a slip of paper that's a registration in a drawer somewhere, right? And that is the most valuable aspect of the business. It's incredible to think about it that way. But even if someone would come in and buy your business, what do they most want? Well, very often it's your brand, your intellectual property, right? And so we oftentimes skip over that. We think, oh, we need to take care of the equipment. We have to have insurance. We have to protect it. But we don't think, how do we protect our intellectual property?
Okay, so can you give us a few more examples? You mentioned, trademarks. So what are some other things? Because you and I were talking the other day, and I fully admit, I thought, okay, there's something I need to talk to John about. There are things that we may not even think about that are part of our intellectual property that we really need to protect. So what are some other examples?
Absolutely. And I think just starting with something that in legal world is called the trademark, right? It's your brand. It's potentially the name of your company. What is the name that your customers know you by? That's what you would call as a trademark, right? It's how your customers identify you in the marketplace. Whether you're selling goods or whether you're providing services, it doesn't matter. It could also be the name of your product or service. What do you call it? What's on the label? It could be the actual design of the label or your logo. How about that? Your logo. It's important to protect all of those things for really two reasons. And the two reasons are, number one, you want to make sure that if someone else is using a similar name or logo or brand to you, that you have the ability to get them to stop. That they can't just do it and then take or siphon off some of your customers, your goodwill in the marketplace that you may have built up over 10, 20, or 50 or more years, right? So that's the first reason. You want to be able to stop someone else from copying you and piggybacking on your success. But the second reason is more preventing someone from stopping you from operating, right? So someone else might have a similar trademark to you, and they might send you a cease and desist letter and say, hey, your brand or your logo or your name is similar to our name, and you have to stop. And if you haven't properly protected your trademarks specifically, then it may be that they're right, that could force you to stop using the name of your product or to change the name of your business, which if you think about it, that alone could be incredibly expensive, right? Thousands upon thousands, tens of thousands of dollars or more, just depending on your business and how long you've been in business. So it's really important to look at those things and protect them when you're using them in your business. And even what I tell people is, before you even pick a name of your company, your business, or even a brand new product, there is a basic process to go through where you can do some searching and see what else is out there. So in terms of what do you do for intellectual property, to me, the most simple thing is this idea of a trademark and protecting the name of your company and the name of your products or services.
Okay, so what happens, John, if someone's watching right now and they start to search and they find that they are accidentally in violation of infringing on someone else's intellectual property? What next? And also, I guess, kind of two parts, how do you prevent making that mistake?
Well, the biggest way to prevent making the mistake is to do the due diligence up front, right? Before you're using a mark, before you're using a logo or a name, you do proper searching beforehand. And that's really pretty inexpensive, to be honest, in the grand scheme of things. But if you are in a position where you do receive a cease and desist letter or some type of, nasty gram from an attorney, I don't send those ever, right? But if you do ever receive a letter from someone, you really have to analyze and make an assessment at that point. Hey, are they right? And who's justified in this case? Many times you would receive a letter because the way the law works, people have to enforce their trademarks, otherwise they lose rights to them. So it's important to always understand what's your risk. And it's very, very difficult to do that unless you talk to someone that's experienced in intellectual property, specifically an intellectual property lawyer who can help you with that.
Okay, so we have just a little bit of time left. What does IP enforcement look like? You just mentioned that we have to enforce it, but what does that look like?
So generally what you'd want to do is to have some type of watch service, or just keep your eyes open, or sometimes your customers will let you know, and just be aware what's in the marketplace. And then if you find something, you can take action and send a letter and then follow up more strictly if needed.
John, thank you so much for sharing this information with us. For more resources from John and the attorneys at Foster Swift Law Firm, head to WLAJ.com and click the link for Legal Connections.